Hey guys, it's Stephen here. City have just lost 3-2 to Crystal Palace, but before I get into the video and talk about that horrible performance and terrible game, that's why I say I'm sponsored by OneFootball, the wonderful people over at OneFootball. So go and give the app a download in the description below. It's got all the stats that you can pull to pieces from that abysmal display, but it's a very good app, I promise you. But anyway guys, let's get into analysing that. That was shite, wasn't it? That was absolutely terrible. The worst thing about it is that we didn't really look to have any ideas until De Bruyne came onto the pitch. It's kind of been coming, this run of form. We've been kind of slowly diving into this idealist kind of mess at the moment. I'm not going to complain too much. I'm not going to kick off and overreact emotionally because that's not the kind of person I am. And in general, we've been there before in 2012 and 2014, but it wasn't a good performance. The things that jumped out to me immediately is that we missed Fernandinho. We had no shape or structure, no desire or leadership at any point during that game. It's one of those games where nothing went well for us and everyone was looking around for everyone else for inspiration. Secondly, we missed David Silva. We missed his experience, we missed his leadership, we missed his creativity, we missed his cool head under pressure. It just happened. And thirdly, we need some reliable fullbacks. Kyle Walker looks very tired. Now, I want to go back to the pre-season when he got back from the World Cup and he basically came back almost immediately. Why did we not enforce him to have a break there? I know Pep wants players training constantly, but I feel like we should have made him have a holiday because his form has taken an absolute huge nosedive. It's gone massively off a cliff. He looks tired. He looks like he needs a long break. And then partly that is on us. A small part of that is on City for not insisting that you actually get a rest because he's not had any rest now since the summer before last. And it's getting a little bit silly because his form has totally gone. Hopefully now that Danillo's back, we can actually give him a rest. Obviously as well, we need our reliable fullbacks there. Can we also start playing Laporte alongside John Stones? John Stones isn't a central midfielder. He just obviously isn't. He didn't have anywhere near the intelligence or the kind of mobility, I would say, to play in that role. I like him as a player, obviously, but he's just not Fernandinho. I would have much rather Gundogan there and Foden further forward. Personally, I would have preferred that if not De Bruyne. I understand why we didn't start De Bruyne given his fitness is not up to scratch yet, but Stones isn't a midfielder. He just isn't. He looks like a defender playing in midfield. Fine against a bunch of reserves in the Carabao Cup for Leicester, but in a actual Premiership game against Crystal Palace, a good team, no, it just doesn't work. So we can't play him there. And also, we started conceding so many sloppy goals. I'm not going to say anything about the second goal. It was an absolutely wonderful piece of skill. A little bit sloppy in the clearances, but you got to hold your hands up and go, wow, that was incredible. But in general, for the past month, we keep conceding silly little goals. I think it's November the 24th last time we kept a clean sheet. Can we stop fucking about with Laporte and Stones and just play them as a centre-back pairing? Otamendi really doesn't have the confidence alongside Laporte at the moment. And our defence just looks a little bit tired, a little bit confused. And in general, we need that consistency again. I would love it if we had a full contingent of players to choose from. We're starting to see the kind of negative effects of having no Mendy, having Walker that needs a rest, having no replacement for Fernandinho, De Bruyne out, Aguero getting injuries, David Silva out. There's too much quality there that we're missing, and we can't kind of deal with it at the moment. It happens, I know it happens, but it's really obviously hurting us. Now we are 4 points behind Liverpool. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to cry. I don't want to watch people and go, that's it. I've seen some people throwing in the towel already. What I'll say to that is grow a pair. Seriously. Were you there in 2012? Were you there in 2014? We've been much further behind than this. Beat Liverpool at our ground, and we definitely can do that. And all of a sudden, it's 1 point. And they will drop points. They're not going to win every other game for the rest of the season. It isn't possible. It doesn't work that way. We just got to show a pair of balls and actually react to this. Even as fans as well, support the team, get behind it. Yeah, there'll be bad days, and yes, the players rightfully deserve some criticism for today. But we can't just give up and throw the towel in. Football isn't as simple as that. Football is just as much about persistence, bouncing back to things. You can't just throw in the towel. Having said that, I'm not trying to excuse the performance today. It was a genuinely poor performance. So many players out of form today. So many players looking around for inspiration and no structure. That was the worst thing for me. When you think of Guardiola teams, you tend to think of structure. You tend to think of ideas and at least a plan. There wasn't much of a plan today. If there was, it didn't work and the players didn't seem to have the wherewithal to input it. Now, it does happen. Sometimes teams do go into spells of form that are not their confidence. And it so happens that December's being a very difficult month for us. But all we can do now is look to learn from these mistakes and start playing players in their best positions. Hopefully get a little bit of luck on the injury front and maybe start to go back to the basics, to quote Mr. Fabian Delph. We just need some players back, and we also need to have a little faith and maybe just get behind the team, and maybe the players need to reassess where they are at the moment in the season. Liverpool, of course, will drop some points throughout the season. It's not fully in our hands anymore, but we're we're only 19 games for a 38-game season. There's a hell of a lot of points left to play for, and we've just got to keep at it. It's just one of those games that Palace had 1 point in the last 6 away from. They hadn't won in Manchester for like 20-odd years. They'd only scored 14 goals before they scored 3 today. It's just one of those frustrating days at the office. We have to bounce back immediately and put in a scintillating performance against Leicester. Not just a win, we have to play good against Leicester. The encouraging signs for me, the small, tiny positives, is that Kevin De Bruyne obviously brought ideas. A fluke of a goal, but I'll take it. But he obviously brought creativity. He obviously brought kind of leadership onto the pitch. And hopefully, with him back, and obviously Aguero back too, maybe we get Fernandinho back for the next game. We start to see that spine of our team be reformed. Guys, it's a frustrating 90 minutes to watch that. One of those days. Hopefully, it doesn't ruin your Christmas too much. But football does this sometimes. I've seen enough shit performances from Manchester City over the past 30 years of my life. I'm not going to cry and worry too much about today's result. All I know is I want a reaction from the players, and that's all we can do. Don't throw in the towel. I can't be arsed with that defeatist attitude. The season is a lot more than a few games in December. It isn't ideal, but look at the positives now. Liverpool have got that pressure on them, and they've got to not slip again. And we know they haven't got the experience at the moment to pull them through to a title challenge. They could win it, and if they do win it, fair play, but it isn't set in stone yet. Anyway, guys, not a great performance. Fingers crossed we move on to something better than that. I've been Stephen. If you enjoyed this video, drop it a like. Probably just, you're probably going to put down. I don't blame you. Subscribe if you're new to this channel. Go and give One Football a download in the description below. I go and chill. I'm going to have a drink in a bit.